Kaisho, hola de nuevo. Y bueno, para esta parte, we are going to switch to English for this next session, where we have the pleasure to have with us, once again, after many years and after some, you could say that it looks like a century ago because the pandemic was in the middle, but we're going to have with us, once again in Maker Faire Bilbao, Thomas Amberg. And Thomas is a software engineer, and he was the founder of the Internet of Things startup Yailer.net many years ago, but he's a one-man company basically. And he was a programmer that at some point became a maker, and now he's in the transition, or you could say that he's already an established teacher. And his main focus in the past few years has been the evolution of this promise of a better future that was the Internet of Things, and also keeping a critical and technical perspective on the promises that the IoT revolution was doing, and keeping a track on how the silent revolution that is being constructed with this network of objects that are around us, gathering data and sometimes snitching on us, is changing the way our societies live and breathe somehow. And Thomas is also the organizer of IoT Zurich, the meetup that happens in Switzerland, and he was also the producer of Maker Faire in Zurich, where he did, I think, 2 or 3 editions, and I don't know if there's anyone in the near future, because if that's happening, I'm definitely jumping into a plane to Zurich right away. Thomas, are you there? Hello, man. Happy to see you. Welcome back.
Hello, very good to see you, Karim.
Yeah.
I have fond memories of Maker Faire Bilbao. And if you don't mind, I will share my screen quickly.
Of course. How was the pandemic in the meantime? Where did you stay? What were you hacking?
I think we are very lucky here that at least personally, I wasn't hit so far too much by the pandemic, and teaching works perfectly remotely also. I'm used to sharing my screen, let's say. And yeah, this was the project I did when I was visiting you.
Compañeros de realización, ¿podemos pinchar la pantalla de Thomas? Thank you. This is the clock that I have right here on top of this column over here. The IoT Absurd clock.
Exactly. It tried to show the time in a distributed way using 12 different computers in one clock. So it's a total waste of microcontrollers, but that's the future. So
yeah, and I remember I asked you, why do you use 12 ESP modules when you could do a clock with 1? And you said, because you can, and because that's where we're going into anyway.
Exactly. And yeah, if you look at what we got, it looks like this. IoT 2021 is just scooters littering the pavement. Yeah, that's the visible part, the things of the Internet of Things, I think. So
yeah, the promise turned out to be quite dystopic, in your opinion, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very useful to have these scooters, but on the other hand, you don't want the public space to be used for private gain. So it's a mixed blessing. And I would say the hype is definitely over, and now we have to do the real work. And yeah, that was also my personal focus in the last years, to start teaching about IoT and to try to show people how to build these systems.
What's the profile of your students? They're all engineers, or do you teach in different faculties, or?
I am teaching at the software engineering part of the school, and they are bachelor students. It's a school, a university for applied science. So they will become software engineers, and some of them will also build IoT systems, I hope, at least.
Oh, yes, they will. Well, it's interesting for you to give them that critical perspective, because it's I think one of the lessons maybe that we should learn is that now that software is eating the world and it's everywhere, we're just, changing life itself. And with each change, there's implications that go beyond the technology inertia, right? You are changing, the life itself, and some of the stuff that you do can have, consequences that go way beyond the cool gadget you wanted people to use.
Yeah, sometimes it's also unintended consequences, especially concerning privacy. I think it was Cory Doctorow who said that you should treat personal data like radioactive waste, and not produce it in the first as the first thing, and only collect what you really need. And a little bit this is true, I think. But in terms of trying to teach about IoT, to show how these systems work, this is my favorite picture about it. It tries to show the entire system, or many of these connected products, how they work in a very simple way, to somehow try to teach the concept behind it without all the complexity you get if you look at maybe websites of products. And I think maybe we can very quickly go through this picture to establish a common base knowledge about what we are talking about, if that's okay.
Yeah. We're in your hands, man. Show us the future, and show us where are the crack on the walls, especially,
Yeah. So to be critical of something, it's good to understand it in the first place, and I try to start there. So the scooters and other products that are connected would be on the left side here, a device with built-in connectivity, sensors and actuators to make it possible to reach into the real world. So computers are connected to the real world. They are small enough to be inside the product. If we have a small controller, it fits into everyday product, like a light bulb. This is all here now, and probably many of you have these light bulbs at home. And usually, you can either physically interact with a product directly by seeing the light, or pushing buttons, stepping on your bathroom scale, stuff like this. And somehow the measurements that this device is doing, or its sensors, end up in a cloud backend. And there you can look at them again. You get, for free, you get the history over time of these measurements. It's like a data shadow that you can see, and it helps you see trends, maybe gain additional knowledge about something that you wouldn't get from only one measurement. If you look at the bathroom scale, before it was only one number with your weight, and now it's an entire curve with the trends over time. So that's the basic promise, that you gain new insight. Or if you want to control something over this smartphone, maybe the heater in your holiday home, something like this, there it would be convenience that you get. That's another big promise of IoT. And if you're in the industry, maybe the device would be a machine, and you could provide maintenance exactly when it becomes necessary. A printer can tell you when the paper runs out. The famous cliche internet fridge can tell you when there's no more milk. It didn't happen so far, but this was a big part of the promise of IoT. Maybe in the industry it happens way more, but you don't see it that much.
And what would you say was the decisive thing that made some things happen and some other things not happen? There were a lot of promises that were kind of like fake it until you make it, like the drone delivery things that had technical difficulties, but also legal difficulties. But why would you say that we still don't have fridges that tell us when the milk is running out? And do we really need fridges that tell us that we're running out of milk?
Yeah, probably not. And I think people like to go shopping. There's a lot of reasons. In other places, it did happen. There are companies for enterprise food delivery that have these systems, fridges that let them know when they need a refill. So maybe it depends a bit on the application.
Yeah, but maybe that's one of the things you talk, that maybe when you're talking about industrial aspects where cost is very clear and a priority, it makes sense. But at the scale of the everyday human life citizen, we are not even close to something like that. And we're not. Do you think that the companies in the IoT world are finding the right questions or the right challenges to solve, or sometimes we're just how would you call it, just shooting in the air without knowing exactly where to aim?
There's probably a bit of both. I mean, there are sometimes connected products that obviously make just a little bit of sense or no sense at all, and you see them popping up and going away again. And then there's other stuff that is just normal now. I mean, to go back to these scooters, they are just convenient, or car sharing is just normal, and we just use it without thinking about it as IoT. So there's a bit of both, I would say. And all the gimmicky gadget stuff didn't really stick so far. I think it also differs a bit from the US to here. Especially in Switzerland and Europe, there's not that many people who have Alexa, I think, compared to the US. If you look at these devices. And so we value privacy over convenience, maybe. But I think that's okay. That
it's good to have choice.
Sorry?
It's good to have choice, right? That's the thing.
Have a choice, and that these systems have to also establish their niche, and there's a lot of stuff that is not needed and will not be needed. So we will see.
And what would you say are like the 2 or 3 IoT projects that really surprised you in the need that they were trying to solve lately?
Maybe I can show some typical ones, just to
go ahead.
To have a common. I mean, we have connected products like consumer products, like the heater that knows if you're there or not and turns up the heat or saves energy if you're gone. Here, the smart lights. This bathroom scale that shows you trends. I think these are the established categories and the prototypical IoT products that will not go away. Then we have stuff that is only possible because of the connectivity, like these lamps, where you give one to your elderly parent and one you keep. So you see if the big lamp is switched on, the little one switches on as well, to keep a connection over distance. Maybe this is a bit playful, but it can also solve a real need to stay connected in a lightweight way. Then you have citizen sensing, the classic projects, where many people measure with their self-built sensors, and they put the data on a common map to establish a nice picture of a bigger area. This was from Fukushima. It's also a classic citizen sensing project. I think these things are still very valuable and still fantastic. Or flooding, early warning systems. This one is about air quality. So people build their own sensors to paint a map of the air pollution in their city. This stuff is still super useful. In the industry, you have connected engines that can be sold by the hour instead of buying the entire engine.
Mm-hmm.
So just buy hours in where your plane can work. I think this stuff is really here now, and it also makes sense. Other than that, I would say we have more chances to work with hardware than ever before. It became super easy to work. I will stop sharing my screen.
Oh, now we see the infinite loop. That was like...
Yeah, it's always nice to see this loop, to be reminded of technology. For teaching, we use kits like these, where you have different a microcontroller and different sensors to put together. It's just standard parts, but it helps you prototype a system quite quickly in very easy to use hardware and software. I share the screen again to show you the outcome of this.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so this would be an example of a kitchen timer, a self-built kitchen timer made with such a kit. And of course, it doesn't look like the real product, but it has the same functionality. It really works. You can use it. You could make a nicer enclosure if you want. So this easy access to hardware and sketching in hardware is still really fascinates me, and I think it's fantastic that you can do this now.
Yeah, that one person or one student can do the R&D that 20 years ago a company with a couple of dozen people needed to do, with the different skills. It's a change.
And you can work with electronics as a material, but also with connectivity options like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, LoRaWAN for long distance. You just add a module, and your device can connect over a few kilometers. All of this is fantastic. That you can build
more about the networks, for instance, because there are different standards right now. No, there's Sigfox, there's LoRa, there's the 5G. How do you think the mainstream and is kind of like pushing forward the idea that 5G is going to be a big revolution? Do you think it is going to be that big, and how is it going to affect already existing networks such as LoRa, for instance? How do you think
if we start with LoRa, this is this long distance network for very small amounts of data. And if you look at this one is an open provider, the Things network. Our city, by coincidence, is a leading contributor to this citizen-built network. Maybe because people have enough money to buy the base stations. They look like this. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
And you put up one of these gateways, and you get connectivity in a range of 2 to 10 kilometers around this gateway. So it's a very simple and efficient way to put up your own network, maybe for a factory or for in the countryside for your field where you plant stuff, something like this, to connect sensors that use a small radio module.
And do you think that the 5G extension is not going to affect already existing networks that already solve solutions? Because the LoRa is quite unbeatable for long distance, low rate data transmission, for instance. Or do you think there's going to be? What do you think the 5G is going to be concretely in everyday's life as a change for the IoT?
The main promise is a lot of bandwidth and very low latency. So this would be the upper end of 5G, but there are also long distance low power networks included. That would be similar to this LoRa one, but they provide TCP, so it's a bit easier to work with, I would say. And for the high bandwidth stuff, I mean, once you have low latency, you can control robots in real time, stuff like that, to do maybe dangerous work somewhere, or to remotely maybe make an operation in a hospital, something like this. That would become possible, I think. But yeah, for the hobbyist, it's not really there yet, because the 5G modules that you get to connect your Raspberry Pi or your Arduino are still a bit expensive. And yeah, the network is also not everywhere already. So I would say that's the main thing. If you are a maker, you are working with, I would say, low-end high-tech. And maybe this is an example. It's from a project at our Applied Science University, and I can show you how we applied maker methods to build a distributed camera network, if that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but it sounds so interesting to get your perspective. And what you just said is, I take the conclusion that 5G eventually will become the highway for the Internet of Things, but it won't affect all these DIY different parallel roads where there still will be citizen and civic innovation happening, right?
I would say we will profit from 5G when 6G is mainstream, so to say. We are at the low end of high tech and innovation. I mean, if you look at Arduino, it's technologically, it's at least the original Arduino Uno with an 8-bit controller. Nobody uses 8-bit controllers, but if it's easy to use and it's available, then it can spread among people who don't care that it's still 8-bit, so to say. And yeah, in this sense, the material to work with is maybe not the super high-tech stuff, but the stuff that is broadly available.
We have a question.
5G is still very new, so we will use 5G later on, I guess, when the modems become super cheap.
Before going to the slides, Alex Corvis, who remembers you, by the way, from Maker Faire Bilbao, he saw your project here. He's asking you about your opinion on the Helium network. If there's
that's also a nice thing. We have seen this Things network, and it's community built, but they have a little bit the problem that people like putting up a gateway, and then afterwards, at some points, it's not super interesting anymore to host the network. So how do you keep up interest? And Helium is a similar network where they thought that they will pay you for hosting a gateway. So they have their own token, and somehow if you put up a node, your gateway gets paid, more or less. Or you could look at it that your gateway mints money for you. And I think that's how many people understand it, and therefore it's a big hype right now. I don't know if it's a solution in the long term. Right now, these specific gateways of Helium are totally sold out, and it looks as the interest is huge. But yeah, as with all the blockchain stuff,
this is going to be blockchain.
And
is it blockchain power? This, yeah, I can see that.
I mean, it's based on a token, and it's always hard to tell the real advantage from just the excitement about being able to print money. Therefore, yeah, let's close this tab.
Always with your peculiar perspective.
But
Yeah, we can change
what
the
I
back too. And please go ahead with what we're saying. But before,
yeah,
what's interesting is to get your critical perspective about all these IoT projects based on the blockchain and Web 3.0. What do you think, besides the printing money, very sexy aspect? Do you think that the blockchain is going to be one of the building blocks of the next wave of the IoT and Web 3.0?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, and maybe I don't understand it well enough. I think we can leave this to the next generation to figure this out. Personally, I'm just not interested too much in this promise to mint money, and the rest I'm always looking at it, what's happening, but I'm not sold yet. So yeah, I'm rather pessimistic about it.
No, but it's interesting. It's interesting to get your perspective now that the hype is blowing off regarding everything that is blockchain based. That there's a lot of tokens, a lot of people printing money, as you well said, and that sometimes it looks like the web in the 90s with pets.com being bigger than General Motors and stuff like that. And we'll see where it takes us. But at the same point, I do think that maybe you could see the value on the idea of creating incentives that make people do what you wish, which is something that open source has lacked of for many years. Open source has run on faith and on people's goodwill to do stuff, and it would be nice at some point to create mechanisms that redistribute the wealth, but it's maybe
this aspect sounds nice, and I also like the idea of objects paying each other to maybe use connectivity or to fill a battery of a car or something like that. It all sounds very nice, but personally, I'm way more interested in the goodwill part of open source and in the advantage of sharing and openness, and also in applying maker methods to build real stuff that is useful. And maybe here I can show you a quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Pinchamos la pantalla de Tomás, realización. Gracias.
We had to install a network of cameras in a park to surveil plants for some biologists, and then we looked at indoor gateways, and you can buy some, but they are quite outdoor. Sorry, you can buy some; they are expensive. So we reminded the Datenklo. It's like the internet connectivity of the big camps that are organized by hack spaces and the CCC in particular.
Yeah, so for the people the audience who know them, the Chaos Computer Club is basically one of the big institutions in the hackerspace scene worldwide. They're based in Germany, and they organize very insightful and fun events, such as the camp or the conferences at the end of the year. Thomas usually goes, and I try to go and sneak with him. Last time we went together, we went to the SHA in the Netherlands. Hopefully now that we're allowed to go back to gatherings, we'll see each other in one of these soon.
Let's hope so. In any way, this is how they distribute the network. They use these toilet houses as server racks, and they just use the fact that it's watertight, more or less. And I wanted to apply the same to an access point we needed. So we bought the cheapest equipment that you can buy, and standard cables for building sites. Then we bought some building materials like this barrel. And as every maker would do, we use the material, how do you say, the thing that comes for free with the material, the affordance of the material. So this is all watertight, it's made for outdoors, and then we just put inside the indoor electronics and make them watertight in a very cheap way. That was the basic concept. And then, of course, you have to draw some fixtures to make this work, to hold everything in place. You can use CNC cutting and 3D printing to make these parts. And that's how we assembled like some access point for this system. Then you have to think about the reach to place the stuff right. So then we built some cameras just using Raspberry Pis and laser cut enclosures and a lot of hot glue. And with these maker methods, we could assemble a very nice system that really worked for many months outdoors. And I think that's a really nice side effect of being a maker. So even now I work for research, I can still use these methods and have a real advantage.
Yeah, absolutely, because these are, there's nothing off the shelf that you can use for this stuff.
Exactly. There is off-the-shelf stuff, but it's more expensive. And this stuff has also the advantage that it looks like material from a building site, so it will not be stolen. It's just there, and nobody cares. So it can hide in plain sight. And this helped us build a lot of cameras and place them in a park to film bees, more or less. That was the aim. And I think this is a really nice demonstration of what you can achieve by using maker methods and very cheap materials.
It really changed you, the going from software to hardware and being able to create your own, your own hardware with no intermediaries. Changed your vision as a technologist somehow. Do you feel more complete now?
Absolutely. And I also have a big pleasure in drawing 3D models or programming them, making them parametric to build this stuff. I think it's just nice to be able to build your own stuff and use it for good. All this stuff is open source. I will post the link maybe.
In the Infinite chat. My colleagues will put it up right away.
Sorry about that.
Well, if anybody from the audience has some questions for Thomas, go ahead. But in the meantime, let's keep seeing some projects. What's that? Let's see your screen again. Pinchamos otra vez su pantalla, por favor. Thank you.
It's a bit of a disorganized talk.
It's a conversation among friends catching up. I mean, what's interesting is that you are keeping faithful to the open source ethic, and you are trying to extend that ethics through the projects that you're doing in probably the place that where it works better, which is in academia, which is the place where this freedom is still allowed, and we are not surrounded so much by other types of interests, right? And
there's a big freedom. And on the other hand, there's sometimes only a small budget, so it helps to have these methods. And the other thing is that you can build exactly what you need if you can do it yourself. That's, I would say, the main advantage. And we also use these open networks. So here we use the Things network to collect data. We added some solar panels to make the thing self-contained, so you don't have to charge a battery all the time. It's small things like that. It's pretty standard stuff, but if you put together all these technologies and skills, you can build something really nice and help other people to do research.
And what's on your maker table right now? What do you have as like side projects or stuff that you want to explore in the following weeks and months?
Right now, I'm very much interested in simplicity and what is the simplest possible way to teach programming and also teach about IoT. Therefore, I started to look again at microbit and stuff like this circuit playground by Adafruit. Very simple electronics. They come with this make code environment.
Yeah, we used it in a workshop last year and it worked quite well.
I think it's absolutely fantastic to have this stuff. And the one reason for this is that I have two small nephews. One is 4 and the other is a little bit over 6. And we program together all the time. And it's really fantastic what you can do nowadays. Also Scratch, I love Scratch to use it. It's a bit, yeah, it's not the academic side of programming, but it's really fantastic to see how simple you can start and still get real results. I don't know why this is in German now, but
well, they probably detected your browser.
yeah.
We have another question.
Sure.
About Node-RED by Alex.
Node-RED, okay.
Yeah, he's interested in your perspective on this.
I will try to see the question.
Oh, that's it. What about Node-RED? And
I love Node-RED, of course.
Yeah, please tell the rest of the audience what Node-RED is a little bit, and maybe we can put some screen sharing somewhere.
Yeah, let's share screens again. I put here a link to my IoT course, so you can see all the materials. It's all open source as well and Creative Commons license. And I think I have some slides about Node-RED. Let's see. Maybe it's this one. It's fantastic. Node-RED is a very simple way to connect internet connected devices and to add some local logic to it. Maybe it's this.
What type of local logic? You mean if this, then that, something like this?
If this, then that would be the consumer perspective on this. And I'm looking for a good example. It's a bit, I don't have a running instance right now. I hope there is some screenshot somewhere. Yeah. How can we demonstrate this right now?
No, it's a community alternative to commercial solutions such as if this then that.
Yeah, you can look at it. If this then that is more consumer focused and the integrations are simple and you need only 3 clicks. With Node-RED, you can build your own local gateway, so to say, to connect different other devices. And the model is that you have incoming messages, you read them and you control stuff based on these messages. I don't have a drawing. I have a drawing board, but not a big enough pen that you could see it. But I wonder.
You are truly becoming a professor now with the big glasses and the drawing board.
The glasses just mean I
will definitely try to sneak in one of your courses anytime soon. We have still, I mean, time goes by super fast. We are 3 minutes away from having to close the session. So besides what the audience might ask, I wanted to ask you if you had any final remark about where things are going and where do you think we should put attention as citizens and as people who with goodwill want the internet to to help us explore the positives aspects of humanity.
Yeah, with the IoT community, we tried to think about that, and we had this Better IoT initiative. I post a link to the main principles we found there. They
Better
are privacy.
Yeah.
So you should respect privacy of other people if you build an IoT product. Then we have security. You should not lose the data of other people. Interoperability. Your product should be able to become part of an ecosystem. We have openness. Ideally, you should publish your software and even your hardware as open source, if that's possible. Then we have transparency. You should not lie to your users, or you should show them how things work in order for them to be able to understand these automated systems. And yeah, life cycle, you should not produce too much trash. You should help people repair your products if you build products. So you don't have to throw away a thing just because the battery is not working anymore. That are about the main things, I would say.
And maybe not everything needs a battery, that's also...
Yeah, there I have another nice example. This is very advanced hardware now. It's quite flat. It's a Bluetooth device that works from indoor light. So it's like a solar panel, but it only needs indoor light.
Wow.
And you stick it to the wall and it just works forever. So it doesn't need a battery at all.
What's the name of the hardware piece if somebody wants to look it up?
Yeah, it's called MiroCard.
MiroCard.
The name is even half Spanish.
Thank you for that.
But it's still a bit expensive, and it's I think more of a proof of concept than a product you would buy hundreds of. But it's just cool that it exists at all.
What about in everything related with harvesting energy, the antennas? Is there anything related with that field in the same? I mean, things that surprise you, such as the MiroCard, that do you think people should keep an eye on?
Yeah, I hope that we can go more towards devices that don't need batteries, or that batteries become more efficient and smaller. But yeah, that's really probably the far out future. I don't know. We profit a lot from Moore's law, that you get more computer for less money or for the same size. Price, but there is no Moore's law for batteries, so this will probably be a limiting factor. Yeah, so I'm more focused on teaching what we already have than looking too much into the future, I think.
No, you're still far away in the future. You just showed me a piece of hardware that works with the light in the room from a light bulb. So your perspective always opens, so many fields that we could have endless conversations about. But we're going to have to say goodbye now. I can only say thank you. I can only say that hopefully we'll see you soon. Are you planning to go to any one of the chaos or the hacker camps anytime soon?
I hope it will become possible again, and yeah, let's hope for the best.
Yeah, I'll pack my soldering iron, and I'll probably see you there at the first chance we get.
Thank you very much, Karim, and it was a pleasure to talk to you.
It was a pleasure too, my friend. Well, you stay foolish and critical as always.
Okay.
Our IoT correspondent. Maybe we'll repeat this in a few years and see where things are going, and you help also a lot of the audience that is very, very grateful with all the knowledge and the concrete examples that you shared. And as you said, a lot of the materials that you discussed, but with more extensive formats and slideshows, they're all in the GitHub that we shared before. Thomas is really a master documentator. I remember that it took him almost an extra week to finish the clock that he did in Maker Faire 2015. I mean, Maker Faire ended on Sunday. Well, he stayed, I think, 4 or 5 days finishing the soldering and everything. And then he still went home and he finished the documentation to finish the project, because the project is not well finished until all the documentation is there for everybody to use. And these are the people that make open source happen. I mean, he will not brag about it. He will not say nothing more than what he's saying with his actions, but you could say that the greatest transfer of knowledge in the history of mankind is basically on the shoulders of giants, such as the guy that you can see right now with glasses from Zurich, Switzerland. So thank you, Thomas, for what you do and for being here with us.
Thank you, and thanks for all the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully see you soon.
Yes. Hasta pronto. Chao, chao. Y volvemos al castellano para la despedida. Nos vemos mañana para la sección de Meet the Makers con 3 proyectos muy interesantes y poco más. Gracias a todos los que habéis estado ahí y a los que nos veáis después en diferido en YouTube, Facebook Live o en Instagram. Y nos vemos mañana. Chao, chao.